Yo people, welcome back to another video, and this time it's a what if Miguel left Miyagi Do in season 6 part 1 after losing the captain fight to Robby. Now shout out to the person who left this in my comments as well, and if you want to see more theory videos, let me know down below in the comments. It can be Cobra Kai, Star Wars, WWE, Marvel, etc. Anyways, let's start with this theory, and for me, I think the first thing that Miguel would have done if he would have left after part 1 after losing the fight is he would have obviously spoken with his mom and with Johnny about the decision, and as much as Johnny would tell him not to do it, Miguel was just so focused on college, on doing his family proud, trying to win the actual tournament in the process to prove himself that he could return to his best after all the setbacks he had, was just too much of an ambition and a motivator for him to leave and join Cobra Kai, even though they are essentially the villains. After joining Cobra Kai, he would have then had to fight Quan, I assume, at some point before the tournament in order to make himself the captain, unless Kreese just said, yep, Miguel, you're the captain, even though I would rather them fight instead of just giving him the captaincy. And in my opinion, when they fight, Miguel would obviously win. As for part 1's ending, it can do the same thing with Tori unveiling herself as the Cobra Kai member, and then we have Miguel follow her and kind of show both of them standing next to each other. Them two being on the same team would also allow us to get more scenes between them, since after season 3 they never really spoke ever again in the whole show, and in season 6 part 3 when they're together we don't even get any more dialogue, maybe just a couple of hugs and greetings, that's it. I believe that this lineup for Cobra Kai would make them qualify automatically to the semi-finals because they are just too stacked with Miguel, Tori, Yoon and Quan alone. They don't even need those two other members, and I think there would be an inside rivalry that you can create with Quan being jealous of Miguel for taking the captaincy. We could have some tension between them with Yoon being the peacemaker. There'd be a constant storyline where Quan is targeting Axel because he wants to prove that he's the toughest guy by taking out the former champion and the current, quote, toughest guy. You can even have Quan act slimy and like a little snake and lie to Robby, say that Miguel and Tori are dating, basically throw Robby off. Maybe he could do the same to Sam as well, just to throw them off. He finds out that all of these guys are basically dating, so he goes and sabotages it, just like in the show where he was playing mind games and he was trying to make it look like he was dating Tori. What I'd do, which I didn't really get why Tori didn't do it in the actual show, is actually have Miguel realize that Quan is trying to annoy Robby, but this is obviously Miguel when he's at Cobra Kai. He spots all these games that Quan is trying to do, and Miguel tells him multiple times to stop and leave Robby alone. Quan obviously will ignore him, and you could still include the whole Johnny and Miguel traveling to see Carmen. It wouldn't really affect that scene, and even if Miguel was to leave, it wouldn't really affect Cobra Kai on the scoreboard because, like I said, their team is so stacked in terms of the advantage they have that they would have built a good enough lead over the other teams that they could afford to lose a few places if Miguel was to take a bit longer. I'd even potentially add some sort of tension that when he tries to leave to see his mom, Kreese lets him leave, but Sensei Kim is the one that doesn't let him leave, and he leaves anyway against her orders. And on top of that, we'd also have what we saw, which is Kim and Tori also have intention. The one problem that you'd have to fix, and it's an easy fix, but what I would personally do is rewrite Miyagi Do, because obviously you're losing Miguel, and Miguel is the guy who carried heavily in the qualifying stages of this whole Sekai Taikai. But what I would do is have Miyagi Do lose to Cobra Kai in that elimination match, the one at the end, the whole knockout round thing where Robby beats Quan. I'd switch it so that Miguel beats Robby and Miyagi Do goes home originally. However, they are the team that gets saved because of the whole Russian team that was doping and they were cheating. Like I mentioned, Miyagi Do, they'd technically be much weaker without Miguel. However, they'd probably have Kenny from the start, so that's a bonus. And what I think would be good to see, that a lot of us would want to see, is boost Hawk again. Have him be that season 3, season 4 Hawk where he was just unstoppable, and basically see him at the levels that he was at before he got nerfed. And I'd also have Robby be less stupid and use some of that Cobra Kai hatred and anger in moments where in the show he just froze and was acting stupid. Replace it with hatred, anger. He gets wins, but at what cost? I'm not saying he's going to injure anyone or kill anyone, but just see that bit of anger and hatred come out of him so that we get a more serious Robby in this show instead of him freezing, looking at people and then getting kicked in the face. A season 4 Hawk plus Robby at his full potential with a bit of hatred and anger plus Sam, plus Kenny from the beginning is a good team that is good enough to push on to that semi-final spot that they end up getting. And I don't think it's that far behind Cobra Kai. Also, one of the main reasons Robby found his focus and balance at the Sekai Taikai was because Miguel gave him his whole confidence boost. He gave him that pep talk, that moment of realization. And I think it would be cool if we kept that scene in, but have them both in their corresponding gis, which would show Miguel has been looking out for Robby this whole time, seeing it's not going well for him, and despite them being in different dojos, he still wants to see Robby do well. Maybe before that, we'd have Sam trying to be the one to encourage Robby and to guide him when possible, but it's not worked. And then Miguel, wearing the Cobra Kai gi, being the one to kind of empower Robby and give him that motivation and kind of make him find himself. I think we'd still get the plot leading to the huge fight at the tournament because Kwon was the instigator of the fight originally with his obsession with Robby. I'd want to see something where maybe Miguel still steps in, but obviously he's at Cobra Kai. So towards everyone else, it looks like, oh, Cobra Kai's attacking Cobra Kai. What's going on here? And then you could still start having the fight. Maybe Kwon attacks Miguel or something else. And either way, we'd still have the Russians doping storyline. And the Russians were the ones that expanded the fight. And then that's what led to everything breaking loose. But ultimately, I think that we'd still have Kwon trying to kill Axel because like I mentioned earlier, he still wants to prove why he should be the captain of Cobra Kai. He wants to take out the biggest threat and the former champion, or the current champions should I say, and obviously it still leads to him landing on his knife. Everything else can pretty much still play out the same because Miguel was already the male captain of Cobra Kai, so he wouldn't need to replace Kwon. It would just be a matter of Kreese approaching Johnny, telling him to take over, doing his whole redemption tour thing. He can say that those are his day one students, the Diaz kid, Nichols. They are only as good because of Johnny's training, and they can do that whole emotional time to finish the job situation that they do usually in Cobra Kai. And then once you get Johnny on board, everything plays out the same. Now, some of you would say, oh, but wouldn't there be tension between Miguel and the Miyagi Dos? Well, if we look at the actual show, there wasn't really any tension between Tori and the Miyagi Dos anyways. If anything, Sam was encouraging of Tori, so I reckon Sam would be encouraging for Miguel because at the end of the day, they switched teams to try and achieve their goals in life, not because they hate Miyagi Do, not because of hatred, not because they even like Kreese and Cobra Kai, but it's because they wanted to do something with their lives where they couldn't if they were playing the plan B and not the captains basically. So I don't think there'd be any tension really amongst them throughout. Maybe initially when Kwon starts to do the manipulation of trying to frame Miguel and Tori to Sam and Robby, maybe that could lead into maybe Sam and Axel and a bit of that stuff gets a bit more fleshed out, but I don't think so to the point where it changes anything else. But yeah, had this switch of Miguel and Tori happened in an earlier season, I do think there would be a lot more drama and the usual teenager behavior where people start fighting randomly and everything, and there's all this hatred and all this animosity. But I think at season 6, they were all a lot more mature, so I don't think anyone will take it personally. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What other what ifs would you like me to do? I'd appreciate if you could like the video, sub to the channel, and thank you for your time.